My name is Diren Singhe. I'm the managing attorney here at the Sul Lee Law Firm. I thought I'd take a few moments of your time to go over the fractional general counsel service that we offer. I thought I'd take a few moments of your time to go over the fractional general counsel service that we offer. Thought I'd explain what it is, how it can help your business, and how you can work with a lawyer to more effectively manage some of the legal challenges faced with doing business in Texas and throughout the United States. So the first question we often get asked is, what's general counsel? A general counsel in the company context has a very specific definition. It's a legally trained person. Typically they hold a JD in the United States. They're members of a bar, typically speaking, and they advise a client from the inside traditionally. Traditionally, a general counsel is an officer of a company, and the general counsel provides services to the board of the directors if it's a corporation, or to the members, and to the senior management of the company. That's traditionally, that's an inside general counsel. It's what most large companies have. Sometimes they have an entire team of them. The general counsel will also coordinate outside lawyers. So general counsel may have teams of lawyers hired all over the country who are dealing with litigation or specific legal problems. They typically will answer to the general counsel or the general counsel's office. And that's because one of the other things that general counsel typically do in a big company is manage the legal department of a large company. Now, having a general counsel full-time and a full-time legal staff is not realistic for most companies that are just entering this market or that are not large enough to support all of that. And that is where Sul Lee Law Firm's fractional general counsel service can come right into play. Broadest possible way of speaking, it's a simple subscription model. What we do is we sit down with the key decision makers of the company at the very outset, at the initial consultation, and try to identify what are the business needs of the company, what legal risks does it foresee, and what issues can we spot. What that does is it helps us put together a plan, a long-term and a short-term plan to help this company. Oftentimes the legal services we need to deliver to address these issues are long-term. They are iterative in the sense that they'll take some back and forth with ourselves and with the senior members of the company. Sometimes they involve negotiation with outside parties. Those will also take some time. Once we know those long-term commitments, we can then put together a plan for a fixed amount or a variable amount of legal services per month for a particular period, perhaps a half a year or a year. Within that, there's an opportunity for the client to not just have us provide the discussed deliverables, also to have a team of lawyers available who are familiar with the client's business needs, with the specifics of its business, and with what its current challenges are. That enables us to answer legal questions quickly and efficiently. If you're a company, the last thing you want to do is repay a new law firm to learn your business every single time you have a new question. Fractional general counsel offers you, the growing company, the new company, the opportunity to gain the advantage of having your own general counsel, but on a subscription or fractional basis. Some of the things are really obvious. Some of these things new companies or companies that are just entering this market will have already faced and may think themselves already familiar with. For example, the basics of corporate organization and registration, setting up a new LLC, setting up a new corporation, registering that with the Secretary of State and putting together the organizational documents. That's clearly something that a general counsel can provide. But beyond that, there's something a little bit more sophisticated that often comes into play, especially if you're just now investing in this market, or if you're expanding into this market from somewhere else in the United States. One of the issues you're going to face is, well, if you're acquiring a company that's already existing to help grow your operations, you're probably going to acquire equity or stock in that company. What are the terms of that? Who gets to control? Who gets to make key decisions? Those are all things you need general counsel to help you figure out. If you're starting a whole new company from ground up, you're putting in your own money and putting things together, you're probably also going to ask questions. Well, how much does the person who is on the ground in this market have to report back to home office? Whether the home office is in a different town, in a different state, or across an ocean, the question still arises, how does this control issue work? Those are things we can help you with. We can put together the mechanisms in your contracts. We can put together the procedures in your company to ensure that they're followed properly and you have the appropriate relationship between your home office and your satellite office that's growing here in Texas or anywhere else in the United States. Another service that we can provide is we can help you acquire complex assets. Sometimes it's land. Land is obviously something that probably needs to be financed. It's got complicated issues having to do with liability. In the United States, there's oftentimes things having to do with environmental cleanup. Things like that, you want to be able to allocate responsibility appropriately. General counsel who are trained in acquiring these assets and negotiating these deals. People you need in your corner to get these things done properly so that there aren't any surprises for your investors. Land's not the only thing you can acquire. It can also be facilities. That could be a completed building, a completed warehouse, a completed factory. But also there's intellectual property. Oftentimes if you come into the United States, you're going to have to worry about other people's existing rights, trademarks, patents, copyrights, trade secrets. Those things are transacted by contracts, and you need intellectual property lawyers who are familiar with the corporate issues available in your corner to help you handle those deals. Finally, you may need to deal with your vendors. If you're putting together a new division, oftentimes you'll need custom construction. That requires a series of contracts and terms properly negotiated. You may have to have ongoing deliverables from some business partners in order to make your growth possible. That requires negotiation and documentation of terms and conditions. And the same is true of ongoing services. If you have support that you anticipate needing as your company continues to grow, those will have to be negotiated and documented appropriately in the jurisdiction in which they're provided. So if you're coming into Texas, typically speaking, the Texas requirements will be a little bit different. The answer to that is basically any company that isn't already so large that it has its own inside general counsel and inside legal division. Our clients literally run the full range. Some of them are small, some of them are local chains of restaurants, for example. Someone who owns several franchises of a restaurant would be a good candidate for a GCO service, because you're going to face specific issues with employment, you're going to face specific issues with intellectual property, you're going to face issues with territoriality, non-compete. All of these things are things that a fractional general counsel is well served to provide. Another one that we see frequently is Asian-based investors who are acquiring a company based in the United States. That requires a certain delicate touch to be able to understand not just the business and cultural differences between the two, but also legal familiarity. How do you translate the need to report and the need to meet expectations from investors in one regime with the rules and the regulations in the other regime? Serving out-of-country clients is a key component of why we developed the fractional general counsel service. Finally, another type of client that we find ourselves serving a lot, manufacturing clients. So these are clients who have operational needs. You have to deal with labor, you have to deal with suppliers, you have to deal with output. All of these things require people to review contracts at every single different level. Those are the contracts that will control your relationship with your vendors, the people who provide you things, the durable equipment that you have in place in your factory, for example, and of course the output, the extent to which you warrant the goods that are coming out of your manufacturing and being provided to your customers or to your wholesalers. Those are all things we can negotiate from the perspective of fractional general counsel. And the one thing that all of these have in common is that as your fractional general counsel, we become familiar with your business and are well situated to answer those issues as they arise, as well as filling out and completing the deliverables that we agree upon. And the answer is pretty straightforward. One is we have the experience and the expertise in these fields. Our lawyers, many of our lawyers have worked at large firms before. Many of our lawyers have done these kinds of deals on behalf of companies of different size, small, large, medium, things in between. We've also litigated them. So we've seen not just in theory, why should you follow the rules, but what also happens if you don't? What's the real downside? Not every regulation has to be followed every single time when there's other things to take into account in the decision making for a company. And we can help you advise what is the most important regulation to follow. What's the consequences if you don't follow this one? What are the risks you're taking? Those are things we can apprise you on. So experience is one and expertise is another. We also have a tremendous amount of expertise dealing with clients from outside of the United States. As part of the way we've positioned ourselves here in the Texas market and in the Dallas market specifically, a large part of our business comes from people who are based in Asia and throughout the world who are doing business in Texas and need trusted counsel to answer their legal questions. So aside from our substantive experience in the various issues that are raised for general counsel and our history of having served clients both locally and throughout the world, Sul Lee Law Firm is well situated to provide fractional general counsel to a wide variety of clients.